Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? I'm the owner of this, or one of the owners of this company, Michael. You may have seen me on one of our many YouTube videos or social media now. And yeah, I can even turn this camera on so you know there's a real person here. No worries, Larry. Is there anything you want me to focus on before you go? Let's go ahead and lock that in. Yeah, we do have those days.
Order filled.
I also have this really annoying thing where since COVID, I don't know if you guys can see my left eye, this whole half of my face twitches. There's a nerve here that's sitting on a blood vessel just behind my skull. And ever since COVID and or the shot, because it was on this side, I have a hemifacial spasm. And when it happens, you hear it go. And it really is quite amazing how the human body adjusts to things like that, where you barely start to notice it. But yeah, Ken, well, I'm alive. I rolled the dice. I'm still here, taking my lumps. But I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. We're going to talk a little bit about today time and timing signals in particular. And I want to get into the charts really quickly, but just sort of remember that the signals that we're looking at today are signals that we've basically publicized 2 days ago. And when you think about that, right, this idea that we can look for times in the future and come back 2 days later to see what actually happened at those times is kind of bananas, if you ask me. And I've really thought about it the last few days. I've had kind of this epiphany. I've had a lot of epiphanies since January. Many of you have been reading about the optimist emails and the event coming up in April. But as it relates to time, I've looked at these signals now for 15 years. And this idea that we can come analyze a market and then audaciously presume to know what it might do in the future. It's really kind of crazy. But it's only crazy through the lens of perspective. What is your perspective with regards to markets and how they operate, right? What is your perspective on life? Are things just sort of happening randomly, or are they sort of, occurring right on time? And are things happening with sort of this predestinative element to it, where whatever was going to happen anyway? Or is there some element of free will involved in it? And I wanted to start out and preface all of this by showing you some cool stuff today, and then sort of easing into that question a little bit. Using data mining and an indicator that a lot of people here in the room are using, we're able to tell people who are looking at the software what times the market is likely to go up and down, right? And so this was published 2 days ago. A whopping 3 people have been following it. And it basically was projecting the times that this market was likely to go up or down in the future. Tim writes, most traders I talk to don't think this is possible. Yeah, I would have agreed with that a long time ago, but I've seen too many weird things today. How many of you were in the live room with me today? Did any of you catch that candle I told you about when it closed under that trend line we were looking at? The Omnia candle. I'm just curious, follow up with people here. Did you get it, Earl? Excellent. Did anybody get it? Anyway, these are the times that were publicized 2 days ago for the E-mini NASDAQ. This is before the inflation report today, before housing starts, before any of that stuff. Congratulations, dude. And so what's unique about it, this audacious chart, all of these times on the top were times that we were expecting potential selling pressure to occur. And then all of these, I love you too, all of these times on the bottom represented historical behavior patterns where over the last several weeks, the NASDAQ goes up frequently enough that a computer goes, oh, it's happening again. And it alerts me to the future times before they happen. Okay? Pretty crazy. I'm the first to admit. And this morning on the NASDAQ was kind of messy. It was a little messy, admittedly. And I want to show you kind of a few things here and how we parse these times out and how I'm trading them with customers and myself. When we arrive at the times that are expected, and let me just say this, before we begin, we have the times coming up in the future. We have the times coming up in the future. And the times back here before the market opened were waiting for us in the future. So none of these price bars were here and all of these histogram times were here, and we were waiting to see what would happen. So what I teach, I think it's a pretty simple method, and it's not the only method, but it's one of the methods, is simply this. When you are waiting and you see that a moving average is rising, a 120 period moving average, in this case, EMA, Echo Michael Alpha. We enter at the close of the candle, which was 707 pre-market, right? And then we exit by the next selling signal, 724. These are windows of time now. As long as the trend line is rising, these are opportunities to see if the thing that has happened before will happen again. And as long as that moving average is rising, these are times that we can pay attention to. So at 7:43, the close of the candle is here. Forgive me. And then we exit our window by 7:52 and take a 10-tick loss. Well, what do we do at 7:52? Nothing. You have 6 minutes. Get up, bend over, stretch, look out your window, admire the sunrise. I believe the simple act of disconnecting your consciousness from the screen for a minute allows your mind to reset and not descend into the 7th level of mental trader's hell. How many of you guys, ladies, get sucked into that vortex where you know you're making the bad decision? You know you're doing it. You're conscious of it. You're almost powerless to not do it. Well, let me just get in here and see. Oh, it's moving against me. I'll average in there. Oh, it's just kind of going up. Let me throw 5 contracts at it. I'll get out of here pretty quickly. Oh, I'm down $1,200. So just the act of walking away at 7:52 is a very important reset happening. Your brain is, I think, squishing out all that trading lactic acid. And it's fresh for when you get to 7:58. Close of the candle, we enter. Exit by 8:04. So I'll put the winners up here. And they're not all going to be winners, right? If somebody told you that, please go back and punch them in the face for me, because they were lying to you. At 8:04, there's nothing left to do. 8:07 is our next window. The trend is rising. 8:07 is historically a time that ends up higher by the next selling time. There's 4.25 points, dollars. 8:24 to 8:37, what do we do? Take a bite of your sandwich. Tell your spouse or partner you love them from the other room. I love you too. Walk outside, get the paper. Clear your brain, reset the mental lactic acid. Because there's another opportunity coming at 8:37. Enter at the close of the candle, exit at the close of the next candle. Aw, it's only $2. It went up as high as $10. I'm just showing you a very basic iteration, a very basic possible plan for these signals. When we get to 8:52, we're getting closer and closer to that open, right? 8:52 to 9:02, we give back the 8 ticks we made. Now here comes the pre-market signal, 9:22, 8 minutes before the open on the NASDAQ, which I believe if the NASDAQ were a real person, it would be a serial killer. If the NASDAQ was a real person in the real world, it would have people's heads in its freezer. It would have a Hannibal Lecter-esque personality. But at 9:22, before the open, the moving average is rising. And up it goes. And it goes as high as $37 in our direction before coming all the way back down and finishing $18. Yes, and some fava beans. Okay. And then things kind of go sideways for a while. But at this point in the morning, you're open 25, 29, 20, let's call it 30, $45 minus 5. You're up about $800 in the NQ before the open comes. Any questions so far? We have all these other signals to look at, and they're not all winners. From 9:47, it hits the stop. 9:57 is a small loss. 10:16 is a loss. And then 10:24 is a loss. This morning was horrible. 10:42 was a loss. And then 10:55 was a loss. That chop was pretty no bueno this morning. Now we navigated it. If you're a customer, we use the Omnia techniques and we navigated it pretty well. However, things start to pick up again after that. We're short from 1103 to 1109 plus 17. We're short from 1114 to 1119 plus 10. Crosses over the moving average out by 1130. And now we're starting to get back in the game, right? In at 1211, out at 1221. And then we have our first stop out again. In at 1245, out at 101. And we're starting to get those windows. How about not trading unless there is a notable trend? There's no way to know if it's going to stay notable. And then Matt on the other side, look what's waiting for us on the other side. Crossover, exit, sell from here to here, sell from here to here, sell from here to here. Oh, stop. Sell from here to here, and then sell. Man, it came all the way back down and finished higher, didn't it? From there to there. So you have the stuff in the middle, in the beginning, winners in the middle, and then the stuff at the end of it all. And in the end, you're net positive on the day. Yesterday, looking at the same market with those same signals, Matt, was it an issue? Right, you see those same kind of trend entries after the FOMC report? In and out, 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 in, stop out, in and out. So what happens over time? What happens over time is there will be periods of consolidation and periods of trending. We never know when those things are coming. It's impossible to know. So if your trading plan is sufficiently tested, in this case, there's close to 1,000 back tests, some things begin to emerge from the ether that supports predictive doctrines like ours. So if we look at a Globex trading session, this was 3-4 years ago, and the stats are still the same. All of the signals from Sunday to Friday on an ES 3-minute chart. The win-loss ratio is 54% with a profit factor of 1.5. In Matt, we can see where the areas of consolidation are. The market equity curve slows down or even drops. We can look at what if you just trade the Asian session from 3 to 6 or 2 to 6. 56% with a 1.8 profit factor. What if we exclude Sundays? What if we exclude Mondays or Tuesdays? Exclude Wednesdays or Thursdays. If you exclude Thursdays, Matt, it goes to a profit factor of 1.6 and a win-loss ratio of 57%, right? But again, we never know. I'm trying to highlight this to make it bigger. Oh, you got to enable editing. We never know when that chop is coming. Does that make sense? So like this morning, Dave asked me to run a test on Aurora. Aurora is a plugin for Warp that lets me do back testing and optimize signals, basically have a trading plan built in, a pre-canned trading plan, this thing right here. And so, Matt, what I did was I checked I checked the output and said, hey, what if we tested the first hour of the market on the ES? So right here, for example, if we look at the time filter, Matt, can you see how it says 9:30 to 10:30 on my strategy tester inside of Aurora? Yeah. And so I just said, hey, if there's a signal inside of this 1 hour window, whatever it is, if it's a sell, we're going to sell it. If it's a buy, we're going to buy it. And we have a 1 ATR target. Well, when I did that, it came back and it gave me all the trades that had been taken for the last 90 days, right? So for 90 days, Matt, it's only got 1 hour of trading. There's no EMA. We never look at the EMA slope. And in this case, we just look what direction it's moving. And in this case, I've shut the trend filter down. I said, hey, if there's a buy or a sell, let's do it. And Matt, can you see here one example of the back test where it shows where it got in and where the stop was right here? So that was a sell and it exited here. When I took all of that data for the last 3 months and I plugged it in, where did it go? I just had that curve up there, didn't I? Let me see, is this it? Yeah, that's it. So Matt, on here, look, that's 468 ticks times $50 per tick is what, 2,000 and change? But you can see there was a period of congestion, right? Every equity curve, no matter who you are, has drawdowns, it has profit runs and plateaus. Every equity curve in the world has them. This one is based completely on a time that was 1 week old. And I suspect if we ran the stats on it, we would see it's about 50 to 60% with a profit factor around 1.5. So it's really quite amazing to me that the signals are predictive in any capacity, let alone a net profitable one over time. Any questions about this? Because it's not just one day. We can go back day after day after day. This is the Asian session. And Matt, it's doing the same thing. Here's the US session the day before. It's doing the same thing. It's doing the same thing. And so we have to sort of ask a very awkward question. What's really going on? How many of you are conspiratorial by nature? I've found most of our customers share a common conspiratorial streak. It's one of the things I love about you. This idea that the wizard is real. He is behind the curtain. He is moving levers and turning dials and doing these things. Well, Matt, when you look at the parameters that are part of the indicator, can you see where it says 714? The signals on this chart are 1 week old, meaning, forgive me, if we're looking at a calendar, Sorry for the small aside here. If you're looking at a calendar and we divide it into 4 weeks, right? Usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. For this Thursday or whatever day that was, it's analyzed 7 days before that and 14 days before that. Meaning all the data in these 2 days was compiled and analyzed to see if there were any predictive times that were occurring over and over again across those 2 days. And so now, as soon as this day closed, Matt, right? As soon as the prior day closed, we've been waiting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days for the next set of times. As soon as this market closed, we had the histogram times for this day. Do you guys understand that? Which means every signal on this chart was based on a 1-week-old signal projected 7 days into the future. What? So that starts to mess with your head, especially when you see over time where those signals appeared. Here's the Asian session of that day. So when you're sitting there without the software, someone who might be evaluating us in this presentation, I want you to remember that feeling of guessing what's going to happen next. And remember this webinar, because there's clearly something happening underneath the fabric of what you see. Whether or not you believe there are rooms of men conspiring to take your stops and hit them, or server rooms filled with algorithms trained to do the same, it's happening. It's happening often enough that we can actuate or actualize on it. I want to show you something interesting along those lines and further reinforce why I feel predictive times are worth your consideration. Everywhere you see a large green dot on this chart is a full moon. Everywhere you see a large red dot on this chart is a new moon, or the absence of light in the sky. Now, I'm no genius. However, we've been using this for years to help customers know what their long-term swing positions might be. And there were no prices on this chart other than the prediction of when the next signal was coming. So in 4 days, there's another phase 2 or full moon coming. How might that affect the way you trade if you saw over and over and over again what was happening at these signal times based on a lunar signal? Now, everything in your brain is rebelling right now. That's impossible. Oh, you worship Satan on the weekends? Oh. It's nothing like that. In fact, there's such a sweet simplicity to it. And when we lean into this idea of predictability, some pretty interesting things emerge. For example, I want you guys to think about what you just saw over here, right? let me show you this chart right here. Okay, everybody burn that into your mind for a second. These are the NQ 1 minute chart signals based on time, predictive times. You got it? These are the daily Tesla signals based on lunar apogee and perigee, which is the distance of the moon to the Earth at its minimum and maximum locations. Focal point 1, focal point 2, as close as it can get, as far away as it can get. Matt, does it bear any resemblance? Ready? Look at that. Look at this. The lunar signals have a 14-day prediction window. We know they're coming 2 weeks in advance. And so when we're looking at signals like this, we can compare them because they're based on time to signals like this. They behave the same way. There's something going on that mainstream trading institutions don't want you to learn about, right? At least that's my belief. If you follow my Instagram posts for Back to the Future Trading, you'll know that I've been using the Warp program on Apple stock. And I've been kind of going week to week and letting people know, here's what's coming up for Apple. And Matt, the last signal was February 28th. And the next signal is April 1st. And Doug Bala, a few of you guys, Asif, if you're on here, he's always making me happy because when the post goes up, it'll say Asif loved this video or Asif loved this post. And it's like every single one. There's one customer who clicks like on every social media post, and it just really makes my day. And so, Matt, I've taught week after week, those of you that are customers, you know that you can draw a Fibonacci time extension between any two time signals to see the waves inside of the larger time wave. And Ian, every week I've been warning people, hey, we're at the first split, March 8th. The next split is coming, March 20th. The split before the 28th was on February 20th, and the split before that was on February 12th. And Gladys, there's something going on here. There's something going on where a middle-aged, balding, chubby guy in North Carolina is telling tens of thousands of people what the most popular stocks in the universe are likely to do before they do it. This is before the lawsuit. This is before the antitrust suit brought from the US on Apple. What are the odds, Harry, of those two things lining up at the same time? Earl, did I know anything about the lawsuit from the government handed down to Tim Cook when I drew that red line and posted it on our Instagram page weeks ago? I couldn't have known. Yet time after time after time, no pun intended, these things line up and appear like a song whose verse we know before we get there. If I say, happy birthday, you already know I'm going to sing happy birthday to you. It's what comes next. And here are the words to the song before we get there. What's going on? Right? I warned everybody about the move up in the euro dollar on March 1st. I told them it was going up until March 7th. Ding! This market dwarfs Apple. We're in the billions and billions of dollars. When was it supposed to go down? March 7th until March 22nd. These are all posts that have been made in public weeks before the move. There's something going on. And it's not just limited, right? It's not just limited to, forgive me, it's not just limited to futures markets. We can apply this to crypto markets as well. Let's connect it to Coinbase. So these are the same signals, Matt, on crypto. Everybody see those right there? What was the last signal? March 25th. Until when? March 16th. When was crypto supposed to fall? March 16th. Until when? April 3rd. Oh, kind of cool, right? And it works on stocks. I think a Home Depot was the last one that I posted for. And Home Depot is doing really well. There's a second kind of signal that I teach about called a puncture. How many of you use punctures when you trade? Anyone? Anyone use punctures in your trading? I want to mention them real quick. When you get to a counter trend signal, let me see if I can find it. There we go. When you get to a counter trend signal in the direction, well, Tim and Ken, your brain's going to blow up when I tell you about why punctures exist. Is Carrie here? There's a level to punctures that I didn't know about, and I want you to remember these 4 letters. If you're in my live room in the Advanced Training Center, you know that I've written rabbit a couple times. I digress. If you have a sell signal, Matt, and the trend is rising, we're buyers. We want to be buyers. We want to actualize on the trend, but the timing is critical. Can I use a 1.0 ATR for the NQ and a 1.5 on everything else? On the highly volatile markets, a 1, because otherwise the risk is too extreme for me. So Matt, if the trend is rising, my enemy is selling. I don't want sellers anywhere near my buying orders, right? It's like walking into a restaurant with your beautiful daughter who's home from college, and you look up, no offense to those who serve, but the room is filled with recently returned Marines who've been in the field with no women for a full deployment. And you walk in, they all look at your daughter and you go, nope, Applebee's it is. Let's go, Susan. But Dad, I love the Rubens here. Get in the car. So this 9:30 signal, Matt, represents a room full of Army guys that may be there. But imagine we walk into the restaurant and I don't see any Army guys. We make it past the first row of booths and the first row of booths are empty. We make it past the second row of booths and the second row of booths is empty. We get all the way to the back of the restaurant and there's just a nice old couple enjoying a hamburger and they split a milkshake. At this point, when we're breaking through the counter trend selling signal stop line, we have a relative reassurance that the sellers who historically occupy this area and drive the prices down aren't here. They're not doing it. And so we can purchase just on the other side of that stop line. Think of it like a breakout failure. Well, when you adopt that strategy, over here now, where I've written buy here on Home Depot, it takes on a different meaning now, doesn't it? The blue dots become warning signs. And so any price movement above this blue line means there's no one in Applebee's wearing a uniform. Take a shot. Put your stop underneath the candle that punctures the stop line. If you're coming to the edge event, I'm going to teach you why you would have been long right here. You would have been long far before the breakout, closer to 310. And you would have held it for a really long time. It happened again. The puncture, Matt, over here. The stop line for Home Depot was at 386.30. So 386, just above that, you have a buy order. You could have an option sitting there, a call. And so now, as soon as it gapped up and closed, put your stop just underneath the stop line. There's no Marines in here. There's no Army, no Navy. Tom Cruise and the other guy aren't singing, "You lost that love and feeling." It's safe for your daughter, or in this case, your calls. Dad, are there anybody in here who can hurt me? Any people? No, sweetheart, it's just us and buyers. So a puncture trade now takes on significance no matter what market we're looking at. Let me find another chart where that kind of pops in. On our CL 60-minute chart, we only had, we had a couple punctures. One happened right here. One happened right here. And now we have our first stop out in the whole uptrend. So none of the white dots have been stopped. Actually, that one has, hasn't it? Interesting. So on the way up, we're buying when it breaks through the blue dots. If we go down to lower and lower time frames, we'll look at a 15-minute chart here. I think it's on the wrong contract for CL. But yeah, Matt, can you see here where it's breaking through those blue lines? And then on the way down where it's breaking through the white lines? Those failures with trend are alternate entries. So now back over here on the NQ this afternoon, I left out signals. We left out this puncture. We left out this puncture. We left out this puncture. And so now you're short at 644 until 158. You're short from here to here for a loss. And now you're short from 601 to 573.50. So in addition to those winners, you've now got this one for $24, this loss of $3, and this gain of $26. There's $1,000 for a full-size contract or $100 for a micro with 2 additional setups. It's pretty cool. Any questions about that? Any questions about that at all? Any other market you want to look at today while you have my undivided attention? Anybody? I want to help you look at this stuff, but I'm not sure what you want to watch. The guy who first figures this out is a weirdo fundamental Christian dude from Lufkin, Texas. All right, Mike asked a question. Let me go back there. Let's look at a market we haven't looked at yet. Let's get rid of this. And we'll go up to a 1 hour. Perfect. So when the trend is falling, Mike, I put mine 1 to 2 ticks under the line. I have a sell order sitting here. I have a sell order sitting here. A sell stop 1 to 2 ticks underneath it. All right. My stop then goes 1 to 2 ticks above the candle that punctured it. I generally try to achieve a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. Whoops. Yeah. A 1-to-1 risk reward ratio return on that trade. So if I pull this out, if I'm risking this top amount, Mike, I'm trying to get this bottom amount. And at the very least, using that gap for a break-even decision. Understood? So over here, my entry is 1 to 2 ticks underneath this stop line. And so now we can do the same thing. The candle that punctured it, Mike, the high of that candle is right there. The entry is just underneath it. And so 1 to 1, I think I go over this. I'm not sure if I mentioned it. 1 to 1 is right there. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you can see those opportunities. Here's Ethereum, right? I'll draw arrows at the long points. Long here. It was long here, and then when the candle closed under the moving average, Bala, it now becomes available to me to short that right there. There's a long available right here. There's a long available right here. Mike, there's a long available right here. So these places now are failures with trend. So if you're adding this up, you're long at 545, out at 715. Long just above the blue line, out at 750. Long at 750, out at 925. Long at 1025, out at 1120. Long at 1155, you can exit when it closes below the moving average. Short here, 1-to-1 would be somewhere in this ballpark, Mike. Short here, closes above the moving average, exit. Puncture, stop is 1 tick under here. You have a loss of 8. Long at 140, out at 245. Long at 245, out at 305. Long out, long out. Puncture in, stop below this candle. 1-to-1, Mike, is somewhere around here. Long at here, from here to here, and so on. Mr. Hale, did that make sense? One thing I don't think I've mentioned to you guys before is if you're following a trend method like this and your candle closes on the opposite side of the moving average, Doug, that can be an early exit. If you're short here at 110 and it closes against you, that can be an early exit, because now it's not a sell trend, a signal with trend anymore. It's what's the word? It's betrayed you. It's fallen on the wrong side of that average. Yeah, we can take a look at the NQ daily, sure. So on the daily chart, if we use the default template values, Bella, let's see if it loads up. I've got a lot of charts open right now, so Ninja is screaming, my computer is screaming. It'll get there eventually though, if you're patient with me. When you turn the program loose on tens of thousands of bars and ask it to look for a solution, here's what we've got. The program is doing what AI people are saying AI does, insofar as it's not a large learning model like ChatGPT with OpenAI or Grok or all these other AI companies. It is, however, looking at a much larger data set of information than you and I can comprehend in the moment, and finding anomalies in time that shouldn't exist. The NQ shouldn't have any regularity at all to it. The ES shouldn't have any regularity at all to it. And yet, there's an element of markets that are predictable. We looked at, silly things like the moon and the moon phases. But this is just pure data. So Bala, if I looked at this daily chart with you, if you hired me and said, Michael, we want you to work for us as our data analyst, I would tell you, first of all, Haron, they should be. Bloodhound was always, I always equate the Bloodhound guys with Elon Musk with full self-driving. They promise you this really great thing, and then you find out that when you push the button, your car parks itself in the pond next door. So the signals are readable by Bloodhound. You can build logic nodes around them. There's a version of Aurora called Aurora BH when you get your indicator downloaded. And there's a community, a support group on Skype of people who have it. But Haron, I just want to let you know before you get there, like right, there's 83 people in there from the Aurora group. I want you to see one of the charts, like right here. There's a Bloodhound chart, just so you can see it. Sorry for the aside, Bala. I just want to make sure I answer his question. It's been a while. Oh, where is it? No one's really asked a question about Bloodhound for a while. Sorry about this, everybody. It's in here though, Haron. There it is. I think this is it. No. There you go. Does that look familiar, Haron? With the Bloodhound signals? Yeah, I can share the link for it too. If you're a Bloodhound person or an Aurora person, I'll paste the link into the chat box. Yeah, so it works with that, Haron, if you wanted to try it that way. But okay, Bala, back to you. These are default values, 714, swing strength 8. With me? You should come to Omnia, is what you should do. So when I look at this signal, you see what I did there, Bala, and why I did that? Okay, so the laws surrounding time. If you think of time and markets together, Gann actually has a better quote than I can muster right now. I want to see if I can find it. Gann says stocks like atoms are really centers of energy. Therefore, they are controlled mathematically. I'm going to say that again. Stocks like atoms are really centers of energy. And therefore, they are controlled mathematically. Here it is. Can you guys see that? So I want you to understand what good news that is. So Bala, now I work for you, right? And I'm going to tell you everything I know about the NASDAQ. And I'm going to rely on this principle. If stocks are like atoms, then I can't use tools that aren't suited for the job. I have to come at this like a physicist does. So in my library over here from college, I have books on thermodynamics. I have books on Newtonian physics. I have books on fluid dynamics. I have books on heat transfer. I think I said that. Mechanical physics. Everything in the world obeys a physical law, right? So, Bala, if I hold the jelly bean 2 meters above the earth and I let go, I can predict within a millisecond when it will hit the ground. Yes, Matt. There's a degree hanging on the wall here somewhere. It's right there. So, Bala, I can approach this chart and take away degrees of freedom from the market, meaning I can make it less and less and less random. And the image that I use is this one. If you've seen the movie, any of the Marvel movies, there's one scene where Doctor Strange is about to get it handed to him. And then he throws this thing at his opponent. And Bala, do you see how it's locking the guy down where he can't move anymore? That's how I feel with this chart. So on the NQ daily, look, I know there's a sell signal here. I know there's a buy signal here. I can't move the times are where they are. And now, as I work for you, I know that I can split any two gaps, any gap of time into thirds, following the laws of vibration. I have to preserve the oscillation across that gap. Negative, positive, negative, positive, positive, negative, positive, negative. So I don't have any short news for you until the 26th of March. You with me so far, guys? Okay. Now, the trend is still up, meaning Bala, in an Omnia universe, I don't have any indications this trend is going to stop right now. We're going to continue higher. In April, I'm going to show everybody why the NQ is going higher from here. But for now, that's bad news. Well, here's the second. So we've added one layer of constraint, the times. We've added a second layer of constraints, the splits. Let's add a third layer of constraints. So now I'm going to come down and Bala, under your signal accessory editor, we're going to go to open price line. And I want you to click where it says show open price lines. And then where it says default line length method, unselect default line length method. And under number of signals, I don't know, pick 15. And then hit OK. Now, what do these lines represent? The lines are the second half of our timing signals, something I don't usually get time to talk about, no pun intended. Gann discovers the first part, the same way we uncover it 15 years ago. And then reveals to us there's a second part. The same way we discovered there's a second part. And follow me through, Bala, as I work for you. Now, by a study of the time periods and time cycles, you will learn why tops and bottoms are found at certain times. So, Bala, this describes the laws which are applying vertically to the chart, constraining it vertically. Blue dot down, white dot up, and splits. And we have confirmation that tops and bottoms are forming on the signal dates of our NQ chart. Would you say that's a reasonable proclamation, that the NASDAQ is going up and down at or around the warp signals? Highs and lows are being marked. Sure. Okay. So that's important. That admission is important because the next discovery is connected to the first one. Once you realize this, there's a 2-for-1. There's a 2-for-1. And there's the connector. And why resistance levels are so strong at certain times and bottoms and tops hold around them. See, whoa, he's saying not only is there a vertical element, time exists in 2 dimensions. There's an energy that extends infinitely forward into the future, where from below it bounces this way, and Bala from above it bounces this way. Those of you in my advanced room know that we had a trade this morning and it missed our entry by 1 tick and then went up, what was it, Earl, $10 on the ES right at the open. I had a long signal, Bala, with a support level right underneath me. Ran away like a coward. So now come back with me that you've seen this, and we're going to add a 4th constraint to this chart. And Bala, look at where the lines are. They're all over the place. But now in relation to our study, what good is an all-time high? There's no lines above us. Where's the next resistance level? Let's layer a 5th constraint on top of it. Any 2 gaps in price, if there are no gaps above you, there's an echo that continues at the last known gap. Bala, do you see what I did there? It's like a piano. If somebody said, Ian, this piano has 88 keys, I want there to be 98 keys. This piano has 88 keys. I want there to be 98 keys. Well, what would we do? You would continue the pattern and the spacing. You would put 10 more keys, white keys, to the right. Well, when we approach markets physically, like we're analyzing atoms or molecules, we have geometry to constraining these movements more and more and more. Bala, are you with me so far? The 6th layer is really a repetition of the 3rd. Anything we do to time, we can do to price. So now watch. If this is the gap from here to here, I can split any gap of price based on time into thirds. Ding. And I can do that up here. Ding! You see what I did there? So we've layered 6 things on top. And we can do that infinitely, meaning I can come in here, Bala, and split that into thirds. Now, here's an interesting idea, Mr. Bala. Thank you for hiring me. I love it here at the company. I can't wait for the softball game this summer. Futures traders versus forex traders. It's going to be epic. Look at what just happened at the split of a split. That's a stop run, right? At a resistance level. So coming into that price, you had an awareness that what might happen? A top might hold at the split of a resistance level from a time cycle. So there are all these things that we can layer on top. And then what I'll do is I'll make the signals smaller and smaller. So if I used an arrow on the one split, I'll use triangles on the other split. But what does any of this have to do with the GDP or inflation or Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve? What did any of this have to do with Bidenomics or the State of the Union address? What did any of these signals have to do with the discovery of rare earth element mines out west, or the US exporting oil and becoming the largest energy supplier, or artificial intelligence? How far in advance did we have signals, Bala? I have signals on this daily chart until February, March, April, May, June, July, August. That's 4 months from now, meaning these signals were known 4 months ago. So there's that. Do I get to stay here? Do I get to work at the factory a little bit longer here at Bala International? I really like it. The cheese platters at lunchtime are a nice touch. The question I have is, why are you shorting it? Why are you shorting it? I had a customer who bought the software, and a year later, I can't remember her name, Earl, she said she wanted her money back. And this was back in 09, 2010. We started back in 2009. And I said, why do you want your money back? And she said, none of the shorts worked. I said, and this was when the S&P was like this, Bala. It was a 45-degree angle. And she kept shorting the blue dots. And I said, oh my God, what are you doing? And her answer was, the market has no business being up here. Well, it is. It's an uptrend until it's not. It's an uptrend until it's not. Now, in April, I'm going to show you how you can know when the trend is ending. That's coming. I have the tool. I figured out the code. I broke it. So what's really interesting now, Bala, check this out. Ready? And guys, I'll stop here. Is this useful to any of you? I don't want to confuse anyone or use up your time. But I do like teaching. So can I go one more step, or do you want me to stop here? It's a good time to drink some water here. Okay. So now, Bala, look. If I open an NQ 5-minute chart, And we have all these laws available to us. Right? We have all these shackles and fetters that we can superimpose on top of our 5-minute market now. Here's where it gets pretty cool. Let's come in and add the indicator a second time. But now you'll see a thing that says secondary data series. When enabled, signals will be derived from the secondary data series. Okay, cool. Well, let's go NQ June of 24. And now Bala, let's get a 60-minute chart. Daily support and resistance lines will give us daily sized bounces. 5-minute support and resistance lines will give us 5-minute sized bounces. So I want to have a higher time frame support and resistance network. So now I'll come down and say, hey, give me the 60-minute resistance lines. I want to see these lines from the 60-minute chart on top of my 5-minute signals. I don't want the default method. I want it to be infinite. Show me the 60-minute lines for the last 30 days. Make them, I don't know, three lines thick. And let's just take the colors and make it interesting. We'll use orange. I saw an orange car today that was pretty cool. Yeah, so that's all we've done. Bala, same signals, same settings, 714, swing strength 8, but for the 60-minute chart. And now don't show me the dotted price lines. I don't need to see these lines. And then on the timestamp, don't show me the 60-minute timestamps. I don't need to see those either. So I took away the timestamps, I took away the dot price line, activated the open price line or the support and resistance lines for the 60-minute chart. Oh, how's that look, Paula? It's pretty, but what else can we do to it? What other things can we do to it? Remember, it's a physics experiment. As soon as this line is formed, Mike, watch. I can project it up. As soon as this line was formed, I'm allowed to split it into thirds. I can take the 1120 signal and split it into thirds. Right? I have all sorts of things that I can do now to add more and more and more constraints to this. And I can do the same thing down below. So all of these things are based on time. Okay, so now there's another tool on here. Let's add another set of shackles to it. I have a lagging indicator. It's called a moving average. I don't want it. Take it off. Everything based on time. And now we have something called a trend identifier. And when I activate that, watch what happens. This one is telling me now, only take sell signals as long as this line is red. Only take buy signals as long as this line is green. Remember the puncture we talked about, Bala? Well, the minute that 5-minute signal is punctured, the program goes, uh-oh, there's no sellers here. Only look for longs. Once that line was punctured, the program said, there's no sellers here. It's safe to look for longs. So now we're looking for a long at 810. Well, 810 is in the middle of nowhere. There are no support and resistance lines here. What can we do? Chris, what can we do? What tools are always available based purely on time or physicals? We can split it. Yeah. So now at 810, are there any trampolines in the area I can rely on? Oh, yeah, right here. It closed above one of them. So Bala, go long when it pulls back to this line and put your stop under this line. All right? So many things available to you. So that's what I would take from here. And I know that it works. Here's the reason why I know that it works. Let me show you this. Daily cycle markers. Bala, these are the lunar phases. These are the lunar phases. First quarter, full moon, third quarter, new moon. And I'm going to come in here now and I'm going to activate those same open price lines. This is based on the size of the moon in the sky. Okay, you with me? It's a naturally derived method, meaning it's foundational, it's elemental. It's been working for 150 years since Gann noticed it. We're highlighting it. And the silly things of the world end up confounding the wise people. So these are all the open price lines of the moon on top of the daily bars. Now, I'm going to take away the dotted price line. And I want you to see this for the security of your thoughts, right? So now on here, I'm going to come in and Tim, just draw. Well, let me see if I can do it. I'm going to drop down to a 60. So Bala, look at where the NQ is bouncing in relation to the open price lines or the support and resistance levels of the moon. And also remember the law that we have at our disposal, right? This guy. And now this guy. What else? Drop it down. Drop it down to a 15. So now Bala, look. This will make a little more sense in a second. Go from a 15 back to our 5. Where are the bounces occurring? Okay, let's pretend we didn't know anything about time signals. And we didn't know anything about predictive trends. And we said, let's just trade an entry-exit system. And this is pretty cool, I think. So now when the trend is rising, what can we watch for? Let's watch for a close above the line right there. So if it closes above the line, Bala, where can we put our stop? Put it 1/3. So entry here, your stop is here. Where's your target? Here. Next signal closes above the line. Where's our stop? 1/3 below. Where's our target? Here. This is based on the size of the moon in the sky. Here to here. All right, now this one closes above, here to here. This one closes above, and then it pulls back, and you're stopped out. Let's say it's that. Bala, it closes underneath the moving average, underneath the line. Where's the target? Here. Yeah. So all of this works with naturally derived foundational fundamental things. And now when we come back to this chart and you're trading a 1-minute NQ chart, there are so many things we can do to it. It is not just a one-trick pony, right? There's depth to it. There's dimension to it. It's not a black box thing. In fact, the guy who first came across it had this to say when interviewed. Let me show you this and then we'll wrap it up. Long and short of it is, there's this guy named Gann who's making predictions about how the market's going to move. And he was so good at it, I called him up here to ask him some questions. The results of this investigation are remarkable in many ways. I'm going to paraphrase to American English. From the surface looking in, it appears that Gann has figured out something new that no one else is thinking about. His trades are based upon natural law, laws that, though they've existed since the world began, only recently have traders been using it to trade. And then there's this admonition. He says, hey, I'm going to tell you all this, with the full awareness that most of the knuckle-dragging, mouth-breathing traders out there won't like it, because he asks them to think and do research. And you and I both know, if there's anything the majority of traders hate, it's thinking and researching. So the stuff that I've just shown you isn't secret. It's right here. There's the full moons. There's the first third quarter. You can calculate them for the next 100 years. And gold is probably going to go up or down on those dates for 14 days each time. It's not a secret. And yet, when we look at big markets, markets that have people really thinking about what might it do next, Bala, what market is this? Can you see the corner? That's Bitcoin. Bala, what happens if you bought Bitcoin on every full moon? On November 27th, on December 26th, on January 25th, and on February 26th, and you held it to the next new moon? You can look the dates up and put them on your own Bitcoin chart. And now let's go see if they're sharing this with anyone. Huh. Full moon, full moon, full moon. Oh, Bitcoin.com. Surely they're going to mention it here, Haron. Huh. It's not here. I want to leave you. I need help from you guys, if you wouldn't mind. Can some of you help me a little bit? I put a little extra time in. I didn't do it because of this. But after everything I've shown you, we had a customer a year later post a review, and it took me from 4.9 to 4.6, 1 out of 100. And this guy bought a program from 1 Minute Scalping, some company. And he came back a year later, Earl, and he asked for a refund, I think to pay for the money he gave this new company. And he wanted everyone to hear how horrible we are. And I have an email from him that said, if you give me my money back, I'll take the review down. I don't negotiate with terrorists. And after everything I've shown you here, the implication of this review is that I'm somehow a fraud, despite everything I've shown you and all the testing that we've done together and all the systems that we have. I asked a customer of ours who's just cashed hundreds of thousands of dollars out of his funded accounts to help him. Spend hours and hours with him, weeks with him. Here are my rules. Here's where I get in and I get out. Many of you have trained with this person. And I said, you're kind of calling him a fraud too. and he didn't care. If you have a moment and you found this valuable and you like what we do here, could you please help me by sharing your experience, good, bad, warts and all, at the link that I've just posted? I wanted to ask you I don't ask you guys for much, but it would mean a lot to everyone, Ron, Rachel, me, Charlie, David, if you could take a time out and just share your experiences in contrary to what this lovely man posted there. And you'll see all of the other reviews from people who've been here before then are pretty good. These are real people. Some of them are you. But I just wanted to ask you if you found what I'm showing here valuable, truthful, then it would mean a lot to us if you could share those experiences you're having with us with other people. Even if it's a 2-star review, it'll be better than a 1. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. In conclusion, when you're looking at these time frames, here's the ES on a weekly chart, for example. You can look at any market, any time frame, any instrument, stocks, options, commodities, equities, bonds, notes, any crypto coin you have a feed for, and allow your computer to search through the data and find these times for you in advance. You can allow these times to be found for you in advance. Here's Bitcoin on a weekly chart, for example. I have the signals out into the future. All right. You can have these signals however long, whatever time frame you want, and have some sense of what's coming next. We're the only company that has a signal to the right-hand side of the chart. Okay, whether it's Bitcoin or oil, we're the only company that's telling you these things. And I'm okay with most people not believing me, believing us, believing the experiences you guys have had. But I don't like when people lie about us because they're failures with discipline, following rules, etc. Okay, so if you'd help me out with that, I'd appreciate it. If you want this program, you can have this program. It's available on our website. You can go to our product store. The program that you want is TachEon Warp. The promo code that you want to use, don't pay full price, please, is WARPF. Warp off. Takes $500 off the purchase price. 2 lifetime licenses, no more fees or charges after that. This is an indicator for NinjaTrader, which is free for download and has many places you can get data for it. One way customers are hacking the system now is to purchase one Apex funded account at a 90% off. It works out to $10 a month, I think, and they give you all the futures data. So there's lots of ways to get data into Ninja. You can use your TD Ameritrade account, your Interactive Brokers account, third-party data suppliers. Video training archive in the Customer Resource Center. There's about an hour's worth of tutorials to help get you started. There's a live training room that I run every day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We have a $200 daily goal and a $400 max drawdown. I've hit the daily goal within the first 30 minutes every day the last several weeks. using timing signals. And you'll have an opportunity to join that when you click on the Buy Now link for Warp on that page. 15 years in business, getting better all the time, having crazy thoughts, and always coming back to share what we've learned with you. So thank you for being a part of that, for your support. If you're here and you're supporting us, you're helping other customers have 4- and 5-star review experiences. And we're turning the tide, I think. We're changing the way people think about markets and how they trade. Yeah, Haron, there'll be some news about that shortly. Do you want to talk to someone about that in particular? Are you ready for learning more about that? I can have Ron meet with you. Okay, stand by. Let me write a quick email and I'll get him connected to you. 2 people are actually buying that right now. All right, I just CC'd you. And that's it. That's it. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope today had value. I hope you have a fresh perspective on the kinds of things you can put on top of what appear to be random markets and constrain them more and more and more and more and more. My hope is that when you're mastering these skills, in addition to the patterns, I forgot to mention the pattern numbers. If you're a customer, your histogram guidebook. When you've mastered splits, support and resistance levels, patterns, any market on any screen, whop, 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 whop. It's not so scary anymore. But you have to believe one thing. You have to think like a King Solomon in Ecclesiastes. Everything that has happened will happen again. There's nothing new under the sun. You have to think like Mark Twain. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Right? A Winston Churchill. Those who don't learn from history are destined to repeat it. I think that's the right quote. These moments, these movements are predictable. If you allow yourself the freedom to consider that as a possibility, all this blooms and a rich, deep world of executions are available to you. If you think everything is random, nobody knows what the Fed is going to do, when the market's going to go up or down, and your best solution is to sit there, oh, it's a doji candle. What does a doji candle mean? I think that's important. Oh. You're going to have the same results that 90% of other people do. It's uncomfortable. It's affected my life. I'm pretty sure I know when the next world war will be, when the next recession is coming. Stuff can bake your noodle if you're not careful. But the alternative, right? Ignorance is bliss. Cypher from the movie The Matrix. I know that this steak isn't real and the Matrix is telling me it's juicy and delicious, and I don't care. If you're that person, forget everything I showed you here today. None of what I've showed you matters. Go back to doing what you were doing. Ignorance is bliss. Thank you for your time. I appreciate everyone here today. On behalf of everyone in my company, we are grateful for your time. May the wind be at your back. May the sun shine on your face. May the mountains lay low before you. May the valleys rise up to meet you. I honestly love you as much as I can without seeing you every day across the street. I think Mr. Rogers' neighborhood is larger than it was when I was a kid. and I consider a lot of you my neighbors. And so I want you to know that I'm proud of you. You're doing a very hard thing that most people fail at and give up on. Keep going. Push through. I believe in you. I know you can do it, and I'm proud of you for even trying and sitting through all of this stuff. If you're sitting through all of this stuff, it means your heart is burning to be great at this. And I believe in that for you in the fullness. Let's manifest it together. Have a great day, everyone. If I don't see you tomorrow, I'll see you on Tuesday in my live training room. If not, come back and watch those predictive times another week and join me here next Thursday at 4 p.m. Take care, everyone. Great trades, small losses, big targets. Take care. Bye-bye.